Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today titled A New Era of Giving, a case study on the impact of multi-channel fundraising. I'm Rod Wisner from the product marketing team here at Target Analytics, and in just a moment, we're going to bring on Tara McLaren, one of our solutions consultants here. On today's webinar, we're going to discover how by using files you may already have, Connection 360 can expand your direct mail campaign reach and communicate with your donors in a whole new way. This is an audio-only webinar, so if you have any questions for Tara during the presentation, please submit them and we'll cover them at the end. So I think we're ready to get started. Thanks again for joining us, and I'm happy to bring on Tara, who will get us started. Thank you, Tara. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Rod. Hi, everybody. Thanks to all of you guys for joining us today. As Rod mentioned, we are here to walk through 3 different case studies that illustrate the benefits of embracing a multi-channel approach to fundraising. Each of these cases is really different. They have different organizational missions, different target audiences, but in each case, multi-channel fundraising increased the response rate of direct marketing efforts. Before we dig in, I think it's important to cover some questions you might be asking yourself. For example, why multi-channel marketing and what is multi-channel marketing? To put it simply, multi-channel fundraising is using more than one channel of communication, more than one communication stream to interact with and build relationships with individuals during a campaign. It's important to be thinking in a multi-channel mindset because it's getting increasingly difficult to really communicate with key constituents. Between aging donor databases, flat donor retention, and the increasing cost of traditional fundraising methods, many nonprofits are experiencing a decline in their ability to engage donors and prospects. If you take a minute and think about it personally, think about how often you personally check your mail. Is it every day? Is it once a week, once a month? You actually open every piece. I was at a benchmarking meeting recently, and I heard a story that I think is really relevant to illustrating this point. There was one university that had actually run pretty intensive research projects interviewing their alumni to learn more about how they wanted to be communicated with. During one of their interviews, one of the women that they were interviewing talked about her mail checking schedule and her habits. She lived in an apartment complex, and the bank of mailboxes was located in the lobby. It wasn't very convenient for her to get, but she tried to go by at least once a week to grab her mail on her way to a car in the parking deck. Once she got to her car, she was typically in a hurry, so she would toss her mail onto her passenger seat, typically stacking on top of last week's piles, and drive off. It wasn't until the pile of mail got so big it started falling off the seat, or she was having a friend join her in the car, that she would take the time to go through it, sort out a few birthday cards or personal letters, and then toss everything else. With stories like that, it's no surprise that nonprofits are really looking for new and innovative ways to reach their constituents. In our 3 case studies today, we will look at specific examples of innovative multi-channel marketing. Specifically, we will look at the impact of adding additional communication streams of digital display to direct mail campaigns. Digital display advertising, or banner advertising, can be defined as advertising that's located on websites that can be seen in a wide variety of formats and contains items like text, images, flash, and even videos. Display advertising is actually very different from a lot of other forms of fundraising outreach. As opposed to a direct solicitation method where email is pushed to an inbox, a mail piece is delivered to a mailbox, or a phone call is made to a home, display puts your message and your brand within the framework of everyday life. It provides a forum for organizations to meet their constituents where they already are, whether that's on Huffington Post reading a mommy blog, on Forbes researching the market, or on ESPN checking the score of the game. It builds influence, esteem, and awareness. In a world where mail and email often go unread and phone calls unanswered, having the ability to reach key individuals and reinforce the message from direct mail or other channels has become highly valuable. But how do you reach your offline donors online? And if you do reach them online, how do you measure the return on investment and even know if this was a successful effort? These studies will show you how 3 different organizations in partnership with Target Analytics, used data-driven multi-channel marketing approach to direct response marketing, and with the result of improving campaign performance with a unique product that is designed specifically to use offline CRM data and find those exact individual households online for retargeting with display ads. Now, to clarify, we're not talking about traditional online marketing, which is kind of the equivalent of placing a billboard next to the internet highway in hopes that it's in the right spot and the right people are driving by. That's contextual. We're talking about taking that billboard or banner ad and putting it directly in the front yard of the target individuals that you want to get in front of, which is extremely different than traditional marketing. So to sum up, 1, it's getting harder to reach constituents, and 2, it's actually possible to have more than one channel of communication to speak with these same constituents on a one-to-one basis, enabling multi-channel marketing. So let's jump into this first case. In this case, we are going to take a look at a national nonprofit in the environmental sector. They were trying to increase response rate for a year-end mailing. As many of you know, the nonprofit industry as a whole has seen a decline in overall donor numbers, mostly due to the decline in new donor acquisition. In the environmental sector specifically, first-time donors give at some of the highest rates, making them extremely valuable to overall revenue growth. This environmental organization wanted to test a new strategy, knowing that they really need to focus on driving these new donors and acquiring new donors. Working with Target Analytics, they identified an opportunity to test multi-channel marketing with their year-end mailing. 800,000 households would be receiving a direct mail piece. 80% of those households were acquisition, and 20% were lapsed former donors. Their hope was to bring in some valuable new donors and re-engage lapsed donors in support of their mission. Our first step was to determine how many of these households would actually be reachable online. That is, how many of them can we actually find online and then serve a banner ad to? Reachability is determined by 3 factors. 1, the hygiene and accuracy of the mail file. 2, how active that audience is online. And 3, the efficacy of our Target Analytics online programmatic advertising bidding process in order to serve those ads to those households. Using this organization's mail file that included the first name, last name, and physical address, we performed a match against our proprietary cookie pool database over 110 million households. During this step, all data was anonymized, and each matched household was appended with a cookie flagged as potentially reachable. Typically, about 85% of the initial file is able to be matched and cookied, meaning they are potentially reachable. From those cookied households, we typically are able to find and serve between 30 and 40% with ads, making those households reachable. At the start of September, we launched this organization's online banner display campaign, attempting to find and serve these cookied households with display ads, knowing that all of the households would be receiving a direct mail piece just a few weeks later. The online portion of this campaign ran for about 15 weeks. Over this time, we found and served ads to just under 30% of that initial 800,000 households. Each of these reached households received an average of 24 impressions total, or about 7 impressions per month. Now stop and think about that. This is not oversaturating, not overserving, not inundating these constituents with a message as if you were looking at a pair of shoes on LL Bean, for example. We have an optimal frequency that we try to reach in order to keep the message top of mind without compromising the users or the constituents' perception of your organization. Each of the banner ads had the same look and feel as the direct mail piece, meaning that they were designed to reinforce the appeal and remind these prospects of the need to really, really support this organization's message. This is a really key point. As with offline communications, it's very important to tie in an emotional appeal, and it's very important to have a seamless user experience between the offline communication and the online communication so that you are working together. After the campaign closed, it was time for us to review the true impact of the multi-channel effort. The organization sent us a file detailing every gift that they had received during the campaign period, regardless of channel. Using a sophisticated process, each gift was matched to the households that were found in served ads during the online campaign. Any gift that was not associated with an online reached household was removed, leaving us with a population that had received both direct mail and banner ads. Next, within this new data set, each gift was actually matched back to the time and day that that specific household had received an online ad. Any gift given outside of a specific attribution window was removed from measurement. The result was a data set of highly qualified, conservatively attributable gifts. Finally, a test control measurement was applied to this population of reached households to compare them against, the households who were not reached with online ads, but had received a direct mail piece. This comparative analysis highlighted the behavioral differences between these two populations to demonstrate the impact that display had on this direct mail campaign. Essentially, we had a control population that received direct mail only versus a test population that received both direct mail and online display. Compared to the control audience that received direct mail only, the online advertising reached households or test audience performed at a much higher rate across the board. The reached audience saw a response rate lift of 11% over the control population, and that is the bottom left side. And if you look to the right, you can see that there is a 9% incremental lift in donors that were acquired as compared to the direct mail campaign alone. And then finally, looking at that bar graph on top, the exposed audience donated almost 60% more revenue than the unexposed population. The result was a 73% return on investment, or $1.37 cost to raise $1 from this primarily acquisition audience. Interestingly, this campaign actually gave us some insight into the donor channel of preference. The majority of the donations were given through the mail, affirming the need for a direct mail component. However, the gifts that were given online had a higher average gift, meaning that the donors who preferred to respond online were very high-value donors. Regardless, this strategy enabled donors to practice their preference and give in the avenue and in the way that they wanted. Moving along to case number 2, this case is an international relief organization. As a whole, relief organizations experienced a substantial decline in new donor acquisition over the last year, attributable mostly to a normalization after the large spike in giving following Typhoon Haiyan in Japan the fourth quarter of 2013. In addition to the sudden drop of new donors in this sector, international relief also has the lowest first-year retention rate due to the cyclical nature of giving associated with the relief of natural or current event-related disasters. With this specific organization, we had successfully tested multi-channel marketing to active donors. So they decided to try to extend this strategy and test the efficacy for re-engaging lapsed donors and reaching out to new prospects. The mailing they sought to boost was a spring drop to 1.7 million households, primarily targeting lapsed households with a smaller secondary population of acquisition households. 2 weeks prior to the in-home date of the direct mail piece, a digital campaign was deployed to target each cookie-matched household on the mailing list with display banner ads. As with before, these ads were delivered with optimal frequency, neither oversaturating nor underexposing each target household. The online portion of the campaign ran for 4 months, and during this time, we reached an average of 28% of that initial 1.7 million households and served each household an average of 15 banner ad impressions. In alignment with best practices, the banner ads and landing pages had that seamless look and feel and really reinforced the messaging and the mission from the direct mail piece. Using the previously described attribution methodology, Target Analytics ran a test control comparative analysis to review the campaign performance by comparing those who received display advertising to those who did not. The audience that was reached with online advertising outperformed the direct mail only audience with an increased response rate of over 19%. The number of incremental donors was 2,000, a 15% lift over the direct mail performance only, and the revenue was lifted by over 20%, earning an additional $140,000 on top of what would have been earned with direct mail alone. In addition, the addition of online touchpoints to this direct mail campaign resulted in a 250% return on investment, or a 40-cent cost to raise a dollar. Bear in mind that this is a higher than expected result from a last year acquisition audience, but it's a great demonstration of how using multi-channel marketing during a key fundraising time can really significantly increase response rates over direct mail alone. One of the really interesting things about this case study is actually it wasn't run at Q4. You can see, there is the need and there is the ability to enhance the response rate of any campaign, and in this campaign, they utilized it in the spring. It's also important to note that this campaign more than paid for itself with that 250% return on investment. So moving on to case study number 3. This third and final case study is a very interesting one and a little different than the first two. This campaign was a consortium of broadcasting stations that joined together to execute a large-scale multi-channel marketing campaign as one. They wanted to use digital marketing to overlay their year-end pledge drive, targeting their most active and recently lapsed constituents. As with the prior two cases, the direct mail list of nearly 750 households was matched and appended with cookies. And a digital display campaign was set to overlay the direct mail efforts of each station. The goal was to increase the number of responses and boost overall revenue from their year-end pledge drive. Pledge drive and direct mail and home dates varied across each station in this consortium, so the display campaign was set up to encompass all important dates. The online portion of this campaign ran for 4 months. During this time, we reached 34% of the initial 750,000 households. Each household received 25 impressions over this time frame, or just over 6 impressions per month. It's also worth noting that each station had their own display creative and landing page that echoed the branding and pledge message from their offline efforts, targeting the households from their specific segment of the overall file. Again, we ran the matchback between the all giving file they submitted to us and those initial input households to create a test control and to show the impact of the campaign as compared to direct mail alone. The reached audience saw an increased response rate with almost 19% over the direct mail alone. Almost 3,500 additional donors, a 14% increase, gave the direct results of the multi-channel effort, and the revenue was lifted by 16% or $400,000. The efficacy of multi-channel marketing in this scenario, targeting very active and newly lapsed households, resulted in a 700% return on investment or 15-cent cost to raise a dollar. As with our first case, donors demonstrated a continued affinity to direct mail. 45% of the donations were given through the mail, followed by 27% being made via pledge, and 12% were made online. So what can we learn from these examples? The verticals and the missions of these organizations were all very different, as were the segments they targeted. However, some patterns emerged that can really give us a better understanding of the impact that multi-channel fundraising can have on fundraising efforts. The first takeaway is, though the return on investment was varied based on the target audience, uniformly we saw more donors responding with more gifts in direct mail campaigns that included a digital display component. The second takeaway is multi-channel marketing confirms multi-channel donation affinity and reinforces the need to communicate with constituents in different ways on different platforms. 3, It reaches more constituents at a higher frequency and presents them with alternative channels to give so they can practice their preference. And finally, there's a true opportunity cost to campaigns that only attempt to reach constituents in one channel. This brings me to the conclusion of the case studies that we're going to walk through. I am going to hand it back to Rod to go through any questions that you guys might have. But I really appreciate your time today and definitely welcome any questions or follow-up you guys might have. Thank you.
Hi, Tara. Well, thank you very much. That was fantastic. We did have a few questions that were asked, and I'll shoot them over to you now. So first, someone's wondering, did any of these campaigns include mobile ads?
That is a great question and one that I hear a lot. Actually, no. We have found that digital display on desktop has been the most successful, and so we primarily focus on serving ads to individuals on their desktop and their display and not on mobile. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Let's see. Also, someone asks, it seems like these organizations all have massive mailings. Can this work for smaller mailings?
Another very good and very common question. Yes, it can. So in order to do a statistically significant test control, we need to have a large enough population and enough action to really have that ability to have that test control audience. Our minimum required is 400,000, which is obviously a lot less than a lot of these organizations ran, but we do work with a broad variety of different info files and different mailing sizes to help them get the optimal performance.
Okay, great to know. Thank you. Let's see, last one. I heard you say that you got the name and addresses up front. Do you need an email address as well?
No, we don't actually, though we can work with email address alone. We do not require anything other than the first name and the last name and the address. However, if there is an email address available, we will certainly take it. Or if there's only an email address, we will certainly take it and do our best to match it. We are kind of the opinion the more data, the better. And yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, well, let's see. That pretty much covers our questions, and I think you did a fantastic job today. Thank you. I think it's very informative. I'm going to put up as the last slide here, you can learn more about multi-channel marketing. Obviously, feel free to contact your target analytics rep, and I've given you a link there, tasolutions@blackbaud.com. We'll be sending out a copy of Tara's presentation to everyone who attended today. Thank you very much for your time. We hope you found the information helpful, and please be sure to reach out to Tara or anyone here if you have any questions whatsoever. Thank you very much, and thank you again, Tara, and we'll see you all next time. Have a wonderful afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today titled A New Era of Giving, a case study on the impact of multi-channel fundraising. I'm Rod Wisner from the product marketing team here at Target Analytics, and in just a moment, we're going to bring on Tara McLaren, one of our solutions consultants here. On today's webinar, we're going to discover how by using files you may already have, Connection 360 can expand your direct mail campaign reach and communicate with your donors in a whole new way. This is an audio-only